Welcome to Beatngu, the channel for the original 41 Chevrolet cab over used in Jeepers Creepers and Jeepers Creepers 3. This is the screen used truck and this is the truck's channel. If you're returning, welcome back. I thought today would be a great day to talk about some of the booby traps that this truck has. And we're going to talk about how effective they were, and in some cases how ridiculous they were. I think it needs to be talked about. I'm going to cover how they came about in scripting. During the scripting phase, I'm going to show you each piece of the truck where those booby traps happened, and so you can see the physical elements of the truck before the movie magic happens. So let's dig into it. How about a rear-mounted cannon that shoots a harpoon? Now, I think this is actually a very cool weapon that this truck has. A lot of people don't understand where the harpoon came from. There's so many critics online that say, oh, why is the truck shooting a harpoon out of the tailpipe? It isn't. Tailpipe, harpoon. And so that dissolves that myth right there. This is very cool. Originally, this was made of a plastic material, and it had this weird looking box that sat behind it. I went ahead and made this out of metal, and it is going to eventually be remote control so that I can activate it at any point. Right now, I just go ahead and tie this up under the truck. But I thought this was a very effective weapon and believable. Now, a couple of things about it that weren't believable to me. One is you can't shoot 300 yards of cable out of this small little box. So that scene where the cable goes forever to hit Kirk, I think that was a mistake. It should have been pretty close, and that would have been a better take on that. The other thing is that this would not be, I don't think, highly accurate. And so to hit somebody's calf, 300 yards away or whatever it is, unlikely. But I think this is a cool weapon, and I think it definitely belongs on the truck, and I'm glad the truck had it. Let's talk about a spike that comes out of a seat.
Say a little prayer that one of these doors opens.
I think this is one of the coolest weapons in the truck. It's actually believable. Now, I think that it would work. Now, it might take 2 sections to be long enough to make it over to hit this door, but maybe not. It would be close. So I think it's an effective weapon. And even cooler, this spike actually killed Kirk in the movie. So it was a plausible weapon that actually worked and got credit for a kill. Now, this spike is not original. This spike is one that we built for creating Flytrap, which is a short Jeepers Creepers movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go check that out. But the real one was just a piece of rod that they used, stationary. But almost all of the effect that you see in Jeepers 3 is CGI for that. And so I think this weapon is really cool. It gets an A+ from me, and I think it is absolutely believable, and I'm glad the truck had it. All right, we have to talk about these rear spikes.
I don't want to know for what.
I think it was a pretty good idea in theory, but I think it was poorly executed, and that might have been partially due to budget. But I think it's a little bit hard to believe that a 3-foot spike or more can fit when retracted into the small areas above and below the doors of this truck. When I first read the script, the first thing I said was, Victor, this doesn't feel like it's gonna work. I don't think your audience is gonna buy it. You can't have this great big long spike coming out of these tiny little areas above and below the doors. He said, Tom, you're overthinking it. Don't worry about it. The audience will be so consumed in the movie that they won't think about where they come from. Now, it is possible. He came back with, what if they were varying steps? That's feasible. You could have a situation where you have a pneumatic, like an air-driven system, where the air pops and these things go da-da-da-da-da, and you have all of a sudden a 3-foot spike that came out of a small area. Just like an antenna on a car, the old ones, you could pull them up in stages and they all fit into a small area. Could happen. However, that was never discussed in the movie. And probably, again, it's budget related, but we feel like these are solid spikes coming out of a small area. And I just think that was kind of a fail. So let me show you guys the physical truck where these spikes live. Now, these holes were drilled after the filming of Jeepers 3. The way the studio decided to handle it is they made long strips of wood and they drilled holes in them, and then they stuck them to the truck with double-sided tape, top and bottom. It looked okay, but the problem was you could not close the doors when these pieces of wood were in the door sill. So these holes have since been drilled by me and aged, and now the truck displays nicely and it looks like it would have spikes that live in the back of this. And it's fun because I've actually had kids, teenagers, I think even one adult, who refused to look in the back of this truck for fear that there might be spikes actually living beneath these holes. Now, fun fact, there are some actual spikes in existence that were to represent these spikes when they were engaged. I came home with those after the filming of Jeepers 3 and I ended up selling them. They were a hassle, they were big, they were a little bit broken. Basically, it was just physical spikes here and they joined in the middle. I don't think they were ever used on screen. I think everything that we see in Jeepers 3 is computer generated art. So overall, I think this weapon that the truck has is a great idea. I think it was executed maybe poorly. That's probably due in part to budget. It might have been better if they came out from the sides. At least from the sides, we've got a little extra space here. Or maybe it is that they should have came out of a door. Wouldn't that be cool? So if you are standing at the back of the truck, you could have spikes come out of the doors, the ends of the doors. There would be some room there for that to happen. So I think that was a miss, but all in all, I think it had potential as an idea. Now, last and least, in fact, are the rolling landmines that came out from underneath this truck. What happened there? I don't know why that had to end up looking so bad. So originally they were supposed to be 6-legged spiders that would crawl out from under this truck, but probably it would be way too fast for something like that to keep up with a rolling, moving vehicle. So they went to a rolling little ball. I think it was probably also budget driven. Now, the idea itself is not terrible, but man, the effects were horrible. You cannot have an object that gets farther away from the camera and stays the same size. Check that out if you haven't noticed. That's the most unbelievable thing. The bomb goes like, 100 yards away from us and it stays the same size. It was really unfortunate. Now, I think the actual thought of that weapon is good. I think they should have kept it, but I don't think it had to be remote and follow vehicles and all of that stuff that they had it do. Why not just drop multiple rolling landmines, or stationary landmines for that matter, out from under this truck as a weapon. And when a vehicle passes over them, which is, you know, if there were enough of them, it would be impossible to miss them, it blows up. I think that would have been a great weapon. I think it would have made sense, and I think it would have got a lot less criticism from fans who did not like the rolling, size-changing landmines. So here is a hole in the passenger seat of this truck. Any guesses as to why there's a hole in the passenger seat? It's because they took this seat and they put it in an interior set with a much bigger box on the back, and that's actually where most of what you see happen with Kirk and Addison in the back. This seat is the one that they used when the Creeper's driving. Creeper, his eyes in the rear view mirror. This was the seat that was used, and they built that spike apparatus coming out of this seat, and that was the predominant seat that weapon was used in. Well, what weapon do you think the Creeper's truck should have had? Hey, I talk to the director once in a while. We share ideas. It's possible an idea you have might make it onto the big screen. Just like you, I hope Jeepers Creepers gets away from this 4 garbage and possible 5 garbage and gets back to its roots, and we learn more about the history of the Creeper and his truck. So please let me know in the comments what you think a cool weapon would be. Like, subscribe, please. It really helps us out, and I love bringing you guys information about this truck and getting you behind the scenes as much as I can. I'll be back with more goodies. Until then, next time.